Okay, good morning. We'll call this morning's meeting to order. First thing on the agenda is the approval of the agenda, and we do have an addenda item.
Move for approval with the additional agenda item.
Okay, we're going to motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second.
Okay, and a second now. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Citizens to be heard. Is anybody here that wants to talk about something that's not on the agenda for today? Anybody on the computer?
Nothing, Mr. Chair.
Okay, we'll move on to approval of the bills and vouchers.
Move approval.
Okay, we got a motion to approve the bills
Second the motion.
and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, our first item on today is the Clay County Treatment Court update. We have privilege of having Judge Jade here, and Christie, you gonna take this one?
Good morning. My name is Crystal Cadry, and I finally get to introduce myself. I've been the Clay County Treatment Court Coordinator now since May of, end of May. Don Kautzman had this job for a really long time, and he did a wonderful, wonderful job. But now I'm here, and I wanted to make some changes. I just wanted to note, and I provided the updates kind of in a combination of everything. I wanted to start off, I sent an email just yesterday. We're having a graduation next Wednesday, so I wanted to plug that if you wanted to appear. At this point, we're at in regards to drug court, we're at about 9 participants in our last phase, so hopefully we'll have a lot of graduations in the upcoming 6 months. I just wanted to kind of give a process of what I've been doing for the last 6 months for you. I just wanted to note that in the first 2 weeks, Judge Merkins and myself went to an in-person treatment court conference. They hadn't had one since 2019, so there was a lot of time to come back together and have a conversation about some changes that needed to maybe happen in drug courts. We brought back a lot of information and made a few changes. We first started off by updating our space. We went from having it in courtroom 1 and switching it back up to courtroom 6. And we moved it around so we were able to move the tables so we were sitting kind of like in a circle. And in that, I felt that it created just a different experience. And I think a lot of the participants liked it. We've had good success of them feeling like they can be more approachable. They can talk a little, they talk a lot, actually. We've had court now a lot longer because they do feel more free to talk. Judge Merkins and myself sit across from those participants. She's in plain clothes. We call them by first name. It creates just a little bit of a different experience for those participants. So it doesn't feel like a courtroom per se. We've implemented a new handbook and a new manual, adding additional incentives, giving them a more individualistic approach rather than telling them, okay, this is how we do it for everyone. We want to make sure that we are following and doing things for each participant in their own specific way. Mr. Larson County Administrator Larson was given an opportunity for a grant by the city of Moorhead to participate. He gave us, and I appreciate, he thought of us, and so he just received that. I don't, he can speak more on it, but we received about $4,883 through that grant from the city of Moorhead. So I appreciate Mr. Larson and the board for giving us that opportunity to use that additional money for perhaps some additional trainings. As it relates to Veterans Court, I just wanted to mention that at this point now that I've finished and we did work diligently for a number of months on the drug court handbook and manual, Veterans Court is now doing the same. At this point, we don't have any veterans in our Clay County Court, which is something that I'm going to start now working on. I've had conversations with the VA justice partner and how we can do a better job of trying to find those veterans and figure out what services they may need, because that's a really important area that I think we're missing out on by not having them in our courts. And then finally, I have two other things, but just to mention, we are in the current very beginning stages of a new DWI court, and that's why I have Judge Rosenfeld here. I will be filing a notice of intent to the county board as soon as I get approval from the TCI team, the Treatment Court Initiative team, that I'll have a meeting on January 11th, hopefully to get that started and moving forward. And then an application to do DWI court training. So at this point, I'm just kind of letting you know that that's coming. There's really not, we're still at the very beginning and infancy stages of that. I think I sent an email to all of you about that, kind of where we're at, to get, a smaller meeting together to start talking about that, and then maybe having a stakeholder meeting once that January 11th approval comes in. Because if that doesn't happen, then perhaps we wouldn't need to have that discussion even further. As it relates to treatment courts as a whole, the Minnesota Judicial Branch just recently did a 10-year strategic plan roadmap, and the plan is to have equal access to all Minnesotans in all districts. So another additional thing for me is to start working on getting those counties that don't have treatment courts to start implementing that. So that's another part of my job as a supervisor for the 7th District, to be doing that. Not that that's necessarily something you need to know, but I figured you kind of understand that the pulse of the judicial branch is also very supportive of treatment courts and wants all Minnesotans to have equal access to treatment courts. And finally, I just wanted to make a note of, there's been some cannabis funding that was given to the treatment courts and some recommendations, and hopefully that will allow more time to flourish with treatment courts. I can't really answer any questions to that because it just happened on Thursday of last week. But there's a number of recommendations that will help add to additional trainings, additional space, maybe a person that can actually try to implement some of these trainings so that we feel more at ease with any new people coming in. I think it'll just help as a whole create that roadmap. So at this point, and then I guess I can move to the next, the actual budget. At this point, I'm not necessarily asking for anything additional, just to continue with what it is that you have provided us. And I so appreciate the fact that the commissioner and the county board is so supportive of treatment courts, and I'm willing to push and do more to implement that, both in the DWI court and to make all the other courts that we have continue their success.
Excuse me, Christie, just before we get too far away, that drug court you said that's next week for the graduation?
Yep,
That at
next
1:15?
Wednesday.
Still at 1:15?
1:30 is when we have it. They go long, so if you want to come a little bit later than that, you can come at 1:30, but if you want to maybe come at like 2:30, that would maybe be closer to the time where we actually have the graduation.
Well, I'm enjoying sitting through all of it, so, very good. I just wanted to know what time it was.
Yes.
I know there's been some close tear chickers in those. Enjoy going to those.
Yes, I appreciate you coming too. It says a lot to the participants as well to have that support.
Okay, excuse me, go ahead.
I think I updated where we're at with the graduates and expenses and current funding. I'm not sure if the board knows, but for my position, in 2021, the judicial branch decided that 30% of my salary would be paid by the administrative budget. So the treatment court budget currently is only paying 70% of my salary. So that's why that might have changed a little bit, and I made note of that so that you guys knew how much the expenses were for the treatment budget.
Anyone have, I just want to say, again, I appreciate Judge Merkins, I appreciate all of the support that we have had from the board and have continued to have. I stepped into some pretty big shoes when Judge Lawson left treatment court. I have found it to be incredibly rewarding. I was part of a treatment court in my past court experience. Crystal had some big shoes with Dawn leaving, but she has really taken the ground running and has done a lot in the 6 months that she has been our treatment court coordinator. One of the things that we did see was that our manuals had not been updated for a number of years, and COVID kind of changed a little bit of how we were doing things, and so that was a very big project to get it up to date, to show actually what we do in court, and then to implement some of those things that are considered best practices. And she's done a fantastic job of moving us forward. We have an incredibly large, at least from what I can see, drug court participants at this point. We have a large number. It's not unusual for us to have a smaller number of veterans. We're hoping to get some of those in as well so that we can move that forward. We are continually screening for those. But we're having a graduation, like Crystal said. We hope to have a number of them in the next few months because of where everyone's at. And we would really enjoy having everyone come and see those if you're available. So.
Okay, thank you.
And I'll just say from my perspective, Judge Rosenfeld, we had a meeting quite some time ago regarding DWI court, and then of course there were some changes that occurred with Mr. Kautzman leaving, taking a different position, and Crystal stepping into the role that she has, and thankfully we're moving at lightning speed at this point because Crystal's done a lot of the legwork to get the DWI court off the ground and running. So I know we'll be back and we'll have more information for you, but we wanted you to know that a lot of the legwork is being done behind the scenes to make that happen. It's very much a passion project of mine to see something like this happen in Clay County so that we would both have a drug court and a DWI court. And I have the rare opportunity sometimes of filling in for Judge Merkins when she is unable to cover drug court, and I know many of you come. It's an incredibly fulfilling role to play a role with these participants in their path to sobriety and path to becoming a better citizen for Clay County. So thank you for all of your support, and if you guys have any questions, please let us know.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah,
Yeah, first off, thank you for all that you do in this area. It's something that we've been extremely excited since its inception. I'm unfortunately unable to attend those because I'm at another required meeting for me to be at that's out of town on those Wednesdays that you hold those. But now next Wednesday I might actually be able to go. But I can't help but talk a little bit about the success of this program. And when we look at this year's numbers, and there are 123 total graduates, and of those 100 have not reoffended. For the $30,000 that this commission provides into that program, when you look at the cost if they do reoffend on a daily basis, that when they're incarcerated in our facilities, that $30,000 is an extremely good investment. And, I'm grateful for it, and I know this board has been in the past. And Judge Rosenfeld, in regards to your establishing or moving forward with the DWI court, I notice in here, I see a date. I'm kind of interested in a timeline for, because I'm assuming that's going to require maybe some extra resources.
Yes, so, and Crystal can probably speak to this better, but she submitted much of the materials and actually received an email now telling us when the trainings would be, which would be in April or in July. Yeah, and so we're waiting for this meeting on January 11th and waiting for a little bit more information in terms of getting the grant money from the Department of Public Safety, and then also whether or not we would need some funding to get us to that training, right? So it's kind of a timing issue, really, is are we gonna have the money to go to the training, or are we gonna need some money so that we could get everyone trained so that once we have the money, we're ready to get off the ground and running. So
I guess I was looking from the standpoint of, training is one thing, you know, that's something that's probably easier to fund than the ongoing total
Right.
operation. I'm more interested in when you anticipate the full DWI court being up and running. Yeah, are you looking at that being closer to 2025 or? Okay, because right now, we don't, we have budgeted dollars for what the request was to this point, and I'm assuming that could change if you had another court.
Do you want to speak to the timing a little bit?
So specifically, for DPS grants, I have to apply in the summer of 2024, and then those fundings will come in October of 2024, and that is, we have to wait until those come through before we can actually implement that. And it'll depend on when we can get that training. It's all based on what the timing is for that application. I'll probably know by February when that training will be, and where that will be, and whether I would need the money at a certain separate point. But once we get, and I just spoke with the statewide treatment court coordinator, who said that if in October, we say we got the grant in October, and the judicial branch was then able to implement and make it operational, we can't do that. We have to do the training first before we can get approval from the judicial branch from switching it from a mere implementation court to an operational court. And once that happens is really when we'll be needing that money. And so it's kind of, you're right, it's a timing issue, and it may not be until January of 2025, just based on when we take that training, when the branch switches, or when we'll be able to get on the calendar for the branch accepting that, and then that's when it will actually start. So there's a lot of things up in the air that I don't know whether or not we'll get the grant. I don't know whether or not, so there's still a lot of things that we need to accomplish before we need to come back and ask for more money.
But you are right. We may be coming back for asking for some money for the DWI court, but we don't want to do that yet until we have more information and we have more specific information for.
The closer that gets to 2025, the better that is for us to. And I just want to, one last thing, I just want to give a shout out to Don Kautzman for his years of excellent service in that area, and wherever he went to, we wish him well. But
We should tell you, he is the, well, his specific role is,
He has an overview. He's a law clerk for the entire 7th Judicial District, but he kind of has many roles in that. And so he is an individual that now helps judges across the entire 7th Judicial District with basically doing their job. And he also then helps manage all of the other law clerks within the 7th Judicial District. He provides us a lot of updates on the law and keeps us updated so that we can be current in our jobs, as well as offering assistance to any judges who may need extra help, whether they don't have a law clerk or things like that. But he's now working across the entire 7th Judicial District. So we still have him. He's still here in our courthouse. So if you do happen to see him, I know he still checks in with me regularly about our drug court because he still continues to be very invested, and we do miss him, but, you know, Crystal has really taken the reins of kind of moving forward. But, yeah, he did a fantastic job for many, many years.
thank you.
Oh,
And thank you so much again for what you do. I'm very familiar with the drug court with several individuals, but I do have a question. What, without going deep in the weeds, what's going to differentiate, main differentiation between the drug court and the DUI court? I mean, obviously you have people with repetitive offenses in the court right now with the DWIs. So what's the difference in understanding cross-addiction?
sure, absolutely. So the DWI court will be much more focused on the alcohol component, of course. I mean, the
Okay.
drug court obviously does have some alcohol addiction in it, but the DWI court will focus specifically on the alcohol and repeated drinking and driving events that the person has encountered. So they're gonna be at a point where they're at least on a second, if not a third or a fourth DWI offense within a 10-year time period.
Okay.
So they're at a gross misdemeanor or they're at a felony level, and they're facing either jail time or, you know, incarceration in prison, where this would be an opportunity to, of course, avoid some of those things, but also an opportunity to become sober.
So I'm just curious, I know we're just really, really lacking in in-house treatment facilities, right? And how does that, so how do you work with that? Or maybe you can't, you know?
So the drug court is a really good example of what folks do. So often people end up going to treatment not within Fargo-Moorhead. So they will go to a treatment facility. If the recommendation is for inpatient treatment, they will go and do their inpatient treatment somewhere, and then they come back and transition to outpatient within our community.
Okay.
And so it's a nice, actually, I wish everyone who was encountering addiction had that opportunity to come back with those supports in place, because that is often when we see individuals lose their sobriety, is that transition from inpatient to outpatient and coming back to the community and kind of trying to put all the pieces of their life back together. And with the DWI court and the drug court, they have built-in supports to kind of assist them in that transition.
Wonderful. Oh, that's great. And one last question. I'm unfamiliar with it, so I'll ask. Tell me the differentiation of Veterans Court.
I'll let Crystal speak to that.
So in Veterans Court, our goal is to primarily work with, I think originally it started out working specifically for veterans in their chemical dependency, but now I'm seeing it specifically in our Becker County cases is also just kind of dealing with them as a whole. Like what is it that perhaps maybe brought them in that they dealt with as a veteran to deal with their mental health. We work with the VA, so we work pretty closely with the VA. Our service officers work closely with them, and we're kind of again, treating that more as an individualistic approach. So maybe they don't have chemical dependency, but they're dealing with some mental health issues. So that, and then we're really making it veteran focused. We're trying to get them more involved in services through the VA. We almost always have the VA at our meetings to be able to facilitate that and have that information for the parties. And really try and get them back to a place where they feel comfortable in terms of all the services that they may need. And they may have those services even after they leave Veterans Court. That's a nice opportunity as well. But we really want to just get them to a place where they aren't committing crimes and are really dealing with their mental health, or we have one that's dealing with his medical issues as well. So it kind of is a mixture of everything, but to make sure that they become whole again.
Thank you.
Thank you. Crystal, just a question on the expenses that you talked about with your coordinator salary, 70% coming from the treatment court budget. Where, when we talk about that additional 30%, is that just being not spent? Are we saving that? What are we doing?
So the 30% comes from the judicial branch administrative budget, and that is more because I'm a supervisor I supervise Otter Tail, Mille Lacs, Morrison, and Stearns County coordinators. And so like right now, we just lost our Mille Lacs County coordinator. She was a part-time coordinator, and that turnover has happened. So then I have to be a part of that process and kind of help other treatment courts with that 7th district to try and keep them afloat as well when they have that turnover. And then also, and that might change now that we have this strategic plan roadmap, but then also on top of that, if I'm going to be implementing other courts, what does that look like? It works out nice right now because I'm in Clay and working on specifically Clay's implementation, so that kind of delves in a little bit well, but I might end up having to go to another county and help them implement a treatment court as well. And so that percentage might change depending on however many years down the road what this might look like, but I just wanted everybody to be aware of that's why that comes in.
And I think that's very valuable, given the networking and given the meetings we've had in terms of DWI planning, making sure we're learning and gleaning whatever would work for our specific area into that. I guess I maybe should have been clearer. So my understanding is 100% of that coordinator budget was last year locally, correct?
I'm not sure
that-
about that.
So I guess maybe I should, so 100% of the budget came from local funds is what I'm understanding. And so if now it's only 70%, is the additional 30% allocated in another area for funding?
I think, if I'm correct, because Don Kautzman had the same position, he was the coordinator for the 7th. And so I do think that part of his salary, he maybe just didn't break it out when he gave the budget from other years, but I do believe that part of his salary was also covered by the judicial branch because of those additional roles. And so obviously, he was here and had been here for a number of years, and so his salary may have looked a little bit different, but I think it was, and it may not have been exactly the same percentages, but I do think that it's just a continuation.
Makes sense, perfect. And I just would like to speak to the holistic, the whole person treatment. A lot of us have sat through those graduations, and they really are quite inspiring to hear how folks have turned around their lives, and not only that affecting themselves, but their employers and their families and their network in our community. I appreciate the fact that we're looking at a DWI court because it does fit a need in addressing what you're seeing. Not everyone is a good fit, and you certainly have instances of that. But in those in which it is a good fit, it is a life-changing opportunity that they are given a chance to turn a mistake around, or several mistakes sometimes around. So certainly this board continues to stand firm in our support of what you're doing. We appreciate it, because we also know that the other side of incarceration is incredibly expensive. And as you look at your success rates over the recidivism rate, certainly back to my 4-H days, the cost per wear on what we're spending versus what is coming out of it is very valuable. To Commissioner Campbell's point about as we look forward for what a potential budget request would be, certainly we would appreciate, even if it's as we plan the budgets for 2025, knowing that in May and June of, in just a few months would be really helpful for us to fit that in somewhere. And if it doesn't come to fruition, we can always take it out. Certainly, it's easier to have things in and then deal with it instead of it be a last minute thing. So thank you again for the work, and I appreciate it.
I'm not going to belabor this, but I just, since everybody has had an opportunity to speak, I want y'all to be assured that the value of this, the drug court, and I was with Moorhead Police for 12 years and saw the value firsthand. The value in what you brought to people's lives into this community is recognized, and you're going to have strong support from this commission. The DWI, so many problems in our community stem from addiction, and alcohol may not be the one that's most prominent in the headlines, but I think it's more widespread than any of it. And this gives us an opportunity to try and make an impact on people's lives there. It's a good thing. As has been pointed out, it's in the long run, it saves this community a lot of money to give people a chance to get back out there and be with their families and work, as opposed to getting stigmatized and getting put into incarceration. And I was at one of the meetings, and I think it's important to point out there's got to be a motivation for these folks, and that's why you have to wait till there's multiple offenses to where they really have some skin in the game. And I look forward to us getting the program up in this community.
Okay, well, thank you very much for being with us and giving us an update what's happening there, and keep up the good work, and Merry Christmas.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
With that, we'll go to the next agenda item, Derrick, Moorhead, downtown Moorhead and Incorporated, President and CEO. We get an information sharing, I guess.
Thank you all, and good morning. Make sure this is on here. Thank you. Good morning, Clay County Commissioners. Thank you for having me. Again, my name is Derrick LaPoint, the President and CEO of Downtown Moorhead, Inc. Grateful for the opportunity to update you all on kind of what's been happening here of late in Moorhead and Clay County, quite frankly. This has been kind of an unprecedented year for a lot of different fronts. One with our economy and just the challenges that presents itself with inflation and interest rates, et cetera. But we didn't slow down. We saw tremendous growth again this year in our permits and the number of projects that we're seeing happen in our community. And uniquely enough, because of our weather situation, usually we always have a large push at the end of fall prior to winter with a lot of projects trying to get in the ground and prepare for frost depths, et cetera. This year we had two. We had two really rounds of that. We had a large push before our first snowfall. It warmed back up again, and we had another rush over the last probably month and a half where folks were really pushing on projects, which is a great thing. That wave is really going to boost us into 2024 with two projects that we ended up actually selling in our Makara Industrial Park just prior to the end of the year here. So I'll hit on a couple different things. Would love to hear feedback and just questions from the group as well, but I think there's some things that I really want to touch on here. We just went through, we had 8 approved incentive projects in Moorhead this past year. That equates to, right now, roughly about 150,000 square feet of new or renovated commercial or industrial space in Moorhead. The estimated taxable value of those 8 projects is over $14 million. So we're seeing a big number for our commercial industrial growth. I'll say that's a very low estimate. That's at the time of application. I think when it's all said and done and they're built, we'll see well over 200,000 square feet and probably north of $20 million in new taxable value. So tremendous growth. We're seeing large growth in our industrial areas, largely because of what I had mentioned on the economy side of things. You know, retail and some of those avenues are a little bit more challenging, tighter margins when you come to financing for bank lending, et cetera. But industrial growth has been one of the industries that have been consistently increasing over the last few years now. And we are in a prime position, I think, in Clay County and quite frankly with the Makara Industrial Park on the southeast side of Moorhead to really bolster that. We saw the last 2 businesses that I mentioned that have just sold or just bought land in the Makara Industrial Park are 2 businesses located in North Dakota that are making their corporate headquarters in Clay County, which, to be honest, we don't see very often. So we're very incredibly grateful for those businesses that I think have not only taken the time to look at the differences between the 2 states, but also take advantages of the incentives and the opportunities that our state is providing right now as well. One of them is a construction company that does construction for housing and commercial, and the other one is a precision milling company that does parts for pharmaceuticals, agriculture, and aerospace. So I was able to actually go visit their Horace location here a couple months ago. The equipment alone that they're bringing to that site is probably worth north of $50 million. I mean, it is incredible equipment that they're bringing into Moorhead. So that's kind of the big one from projects. You know, one that's been talked about for a number of years and I've presented to Clay County in the past is our downtown project. There's no doubt there's been a lot of news stories about this. The Moorhead Center Mall project is definitely underway. At this point in time, there is 1 condo owner remaining in the site, and negotiations between Roars and that condo owner are occurring. We've seen a lot of relocates actually happen. The latest kind of figures that I have, we have 2 businesses that have chosen to move to North Dakota. We had 3 businesses that have chosen to retire. And at this point in time, we have 10 businesses that have chosen to relocate or have already relocated within Moorhead. And we're extremely grateful again for those businesses that are obviously going through a tough transition of change. But we're glad that they found opportunities in Moorhead, and we're seeing a lot of those folks have success with a different storefront, a different location. And I think it's worked out well for some of these folks as well. So, some of those include just recently, and the permit just came in for Moorhead Drug to move into the old Taco John space on Center Avenue. We had Moorhead Vision Associates that is building a new project by the Hornbachers in South Moorhead. Vic's moving into Chumley's, which became a pretty seamless transition, and I'm glad that worked out for both parties. We have Merrill Norman, who moved into the urban hair kind of location right by Country Greenery in that space. So again, just very grateful for some of these moves and relocates as well. Really the next steps for that particular project, without kind of getting into a whole lot of detail, is we're going to see interior demolition of Herberger's starting. That started actually at the end of last week. You can see some of the construction equipment that's starting to show up on site. Exterior demolition of Herberger's will occur probably before the end of the year, if not right away in the beginning of 2024. So you'll see that building come down. That is just the Herberger's building. The parking ramp at this point in time is remaining. We're working with a developer that's looking to actually preserve the ramp, maybe actually increase a floor on it, and then wrap the parking structure as well. We'll look forward to February and March, where we'll see more demolition occur to make room for the new Library Community Center project. So that would be where the former Thai Orchid space it has sat, as well as some of additional areas that have been uncovered. And then in spring of 2024, we'll have the project itself, the Library Community Center project start, and Kevin Bartram break ground on his right now estimated about $45 million mixed-use project on the east side of the mall. So a large project. It's really going to change the footprint of that site very, very quickly. I mentioned this before. The whole mall site, as it currently sits right now, is a taxable value of about $20 million. Kevin's project alone will push that assessed value at about exceeding what it is currently valued at. So Kevin's project alone is going to bring almost as much value as the current site sits as it lays right now. So we're extremely grateful to Kevin, extremely grateful to Kevin for not only doing that project, but several projects in downtown Moorhead, including the Fairmont Creamery, which is underway. He is the owner of the U.S. Bank building, and we'll start that project in 2025, sorry. And so we're seeing great investment from him. And I think if Kevin was here, his comment to us lately is he understands Moorhead. He's understanding the dynamics of what's available to him. He understands the Minnesota tax credit program as well. And he's seen a great rate of return, whether that's through commercial businesses that are going to be inside of his spaces, or the occupancy of rentals and units that he's having from living units in these spaces as well. So every new apartment building that has been built in downtown Moorhead is fully occupied, which is a really great story, I think, in itself. It shows that the demand is there, and it shows, quite frankly, that we have more opportunities to build with our higher education partners and young professionals as well. I know you have on the agenda a little bit later here with the Moorhead Cultural Mall project, and Fauzia here as well, but please give strong consideration to supporting that. I know Fauzia is looking at the Wells Fargo building in downtown. I think it really ties in nicely to our whole downtown project. I kind of describe it, and Fauzia can correct me if I'm wrong, but kind of a diverse brouhaha. So I know we've been connecting her to many different developers, many different businesses, but Fauzia is a powerhouse in herself of getting stuff done. So thank you, Fauzia, for all you're doing in that project and all you're doing in the community. Partnerships, moving on to that, partnerships have been an important thing in 2023, as well as leading into 2024. We actually had the new commissioner of deed, Matt Verlick, in town about 3 weeks ago. We spent a good hour with them in communicating, quite frankly, our challenges and opportunities of being a border community. We represented some of the growth opportunities that we have, whether that's, again, in our industrial area as well as our downtown project. One of the big things that I've been pushing here of late is, and I thought it was appropriate with Commissioner Verlick and his background. He's from Little Falls area, ran a initiative territory similar to West Central Initiative. I frankly believe that our initiative territories are too large, specifically for the West Central Territory, to compare, St. Cloud to Moorhead and everything in between as the same and dealing with the same problems, sharing the same pot of funds. Having one representative that kind of has to go through that whole territory is just very, very challenging. I think it resonated with Commissioner Verlick. Whether anything gets done is a whole nother conversation, but I definitely wanted to put that bug in his ear because I know the stress that our West Central SBDC is facing, the West Central Initiative is facing. Those folks are overworked, understaffed, and serving large territories. So we'll see what happens, but I would love to see some more attention and focus. And I think it translates for our state to better understand our region in a more meaningful way when it comes to policy making, funding, appropriations, and quite frankly, being a better communication through our state legislative process. Speaking of legislative process, I am not a registered lobbyist, nor do I intend to be a registered lobbyist, but I will be spending a little bit more time in St. Paul this year. I felt that it was important, and in having conversations with my Downtown Moorhead Inc. board, that I will be making 2 additional trips just on my own to St. Paul and meeting with our local legislators. Not driving a legislative agenda or a specific policy, but purely a relationship standpoint and sharing what we're hearing on the streets, what we're hearing from our businesses, our residents. I've already had some conversations with some of our other Clay County leaders, including Karen Lauer, about communicating and connecting with those folks prior to going down. But I just want to represent what we're hearing. Again, not an intentional push of something needs to change, but making sure those folks are aware of the pressure points that are happening. I also will be connecting with our deed representatives down there too and sharing the same message. I think it was very clear this past legislative session was the hardest session that I've been a part of in my 6 years in this role. And I think a lot of it came down to miscommunication. There was a lot happening at the state level in a very, very fast-paced. We had rumors that were driving narratives when it came to paid family medical leave and other things. Again, not taking a side on one side or the other, but I felt like there wasn't a clear message and there wasn't a clear enough documentation or agenda coming from our state legislators to help dispel some of those rumors. We let other things take control of it, which I think created, quite frankly, panic and fear in our business community, which some of them had every right to have concerns about, but I think there could have been better documentation and communication from our legislators to help ease some of that or have a better tool of how those businesses can communicate to our legislators. So I've had conversations with all of our local reps, Representative Joy, Representative Keeler, and Senator Kupek, about these visits. They're all in favor of it and all want to try to help as best they can. So again, no intentions to be a lobbyist, nor do I want to be, nor do I really want to be in St. Paul that often, but I do feel like there is value in being there, especially with how much is happening. And I know all of you go to St. Paul during the legislative session as well, and you can see the number of people that are at the Capitol on a daily basis. And I wrote this down here, and I've said it over and over again to our deed partners and our state partners, as well as, just because we're not there in person at every event doesn't mean we don't care or don't matter. It's hard to get to St. Paul in the wintertime, and especially with our work schedules. It becomes a cost with finding a hotel and the gas and everything else. So I think it's bringing our legislators and our state leaders to understand that we want to try to participate in everything and be present at as much things as possible. It just is a little bit more challenging for us to get there and be there on a consistent basis too. So I think they're being more open to virtual options and other ways for us to participate, so they know that we still exist here on the border. Couple things in closing. I mentioned again the partnerships, the communication. We got 2 new higher education presidents here in Moorhead, with President Downs at MSUM and President Irvine at Concordia. I will just say, between Carrie Brimhall at M State and the 2 new leaders, we have a fantastic leadership group at our higher ed partners right now. I think they will be much more active in our community. I think you'll see the footprints of campus, even though, yes, they have their campus footprint, there'll be much more engagement with the community and much more spread and intentional thought about how we get the students out in our community more, interacting with our community more, and maybe even doing some classes in some of these new downtown projects as well. So we're excited for that. The big thing leading into 2024, I will stress again, is communication. We continually hear, whether it's through our financial institutions, our business lending partners, our commercial real estate partners, that there's just a lack of information of what is available to our businesses and our groups. So sharing our message continues to be a key focus. Every year, Moorhead does an annual report. It's a large document. It's a PowerPoint, usually about 30 to 40 slides, kind of shares the great work that's been done, a lot of the projects that have been done. It's just not a consumable document if you're going to meet with a prospective business or have at a business lender's desk, et cetera. So we're actually looking to consolidate that annual report into a trifold, into a front and back document that, Sherry Larson with the Moorhead Business Association, myself, our Clay County commissioners, Clay County leadership, City of Moorhead leadership, has something that can lay down when they're having a conversation with somebody that maybe doesn't understand our community that well, or maybe has been in our community for a long period of time and has never taken the time to understand what Moorhead and Clay County has to offer as well. So I'm really looking forward to having that document. It's been something we've been pushing on for a number of years, and it looks like we're going to have that this year in probably early February to be able to start sharing and spreading the word. I think business support, in closing, business support continues to be another top priority as well. I know DEED has been working with our initiative foundations and having another round of grants for business support. We're continuing to try to spread that message to make sure that our businesses are aware of these programs, take advantage of these programs, but also try to understand what is useful for our business community right now. So we're seeing the need, and I know West Central Small Business Development Center, the SBDC, has been doing a lot of programs on succession planning, so transition of business ownership, especially as we've seen a lot of our baby boomer generation move on into retirements, et cetera, but making sure that we're giving, again, the best resources available to our business owners to make the best decision for themselves. I mean, ultimately, it's their business, it's their choice, but giving them those resources and connecting them to that is an important priority to make sure that we're viable for generations to come. So with that, I very much appreciate Clay County's support. I know you've been great supporters of Downtown Moorhead Inc. over the last number of years. Continue to strengthen that and see how I can be a viable option and source for help for the county as well. So thank you for your time this morning.
Well, thank you for the update. I don't know what title you want to go under, but whether it's lobbyist or president, CEO, or whatever.
Not lobbyist.
I think you're a pretty good advocate for Clay County. I mean, we keep telling ourselves we're the fourth largest or fastest growing county in the state of Minnesota. And I think it's because what you're doing here in Moorhead. And thank you very much for your efforts, and appreciate what you're doing. It's good, very good news what you're giving us here.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Did you have something there?
Yeah, thank you. Clay County is, for a long time, has really been supportive of economic development in Clay County. It's critical to what we do and what we want to become. And I am really pleased when I hear your discussion about legislative issues. I think that if there's a hindrance as a border community, it boils down to legislative issues that can maybe prevent. You talk about Kevin having a real good knowledge of Moorhead and Minnesota. That might be a rarity.
Yeah.
So the ability to expand on that, and the fact that you're sharing that with the Karen Lowers of the world and other communities within Clay County. I know we've invested in Downtown Moorhead Inc., and I'm going to be talking about that in our budget process a little bit later, but the, I think what, Commissioner Gross just mentioned too, I think that you're a strong voice. You're a strong voice for economic development and business in this community, and we don't want to overlook that. And you brought up communication, and communication is extremely important. And I'm excited to where things are going. I know there's been a couple of hurdles and delays in some of the futuristic look at the downtown development. But, as you said, hopefully that's going to be turning the corner quite rapidly now. So with that, I want to thank you for your efforts, Derrick, on what you've been doing. And I think our investment into your group has been well worth it.
Thank you. Appreciate that. If I may add very quickly too, one thing I forgot to mention on the downtown project. So there is a ton of behind the scenes work that's been happening on that. You can imagine the amount of infrastructure that needs to go into that project, the amount of coordination that has to go into that project. We are in the process of making sure we have a clean title and survey of that site. You can imagine with all the old buildings, the old infrastructure that's down there. So having a survey that can be completed so we understand exactly where right-of-way is, we can plan those next streets that are there. So we have the vision on Moorhead that many folks have seen. We are planning to update that in probably late January, early February. That'll have Kevin Bartram's new project, the footprint that will be represented on it, the new library footprint and design on there as well as accurately representing the public plaza areas, the right-of-way widths, the opportunities that exist with other developers. We're hoping that Moorhead site, because it's really sitting outside the realm of the city of Moorhead or of government function, that can be our host for updates for all things related to downtown. The city has brought in Jenny Sheets, who is formerly working with Emerging Prairie, to do a lot of placemaking efforts. So creating an event calendar, and that becomes the one-stop shop when you start seeing activity and generation of events happening in Moorhead. So we're excited at what can become of that. I know a lot of people criticize and have challenged the communications around the mall site. It gets very complicated because a lot of them were in legal or real estate negotiations. Once there is full site control, once there is this last condo that negotiations kind of are completed, I think you'll see a much bigger push on a communication front and celebrating some of the great work that's been done as well. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to elaborate a little bit on what Commissioner Campbell touched on, not to detract from the importance of regional projects, things like the diversion, things like triple RDC. There are many things we do as two state, two county initiatives that work, but we can't put our reliance in expanding businesses and the opportunities in the dual state model on everything. And I really hope we can consider being supportive. You've shown the ability to focus in not just on Moorhead. We want you to focus in on the county as well. But for that, you need resources, and I understand that. And I hope we can be supportive of that, or continue to be supportive, because you've done a good job. We've got some things that are starting to happen in Clay County and in Moorhead. It's exciting, and I think it's only going to go further. Once the diversion's completed, we're going to see growth. I've seen it in Texas, and I've seen it in other parts of the country firsthand. And once we get rid of the obstacle that floods present and people wanting to come in here and get established, I think we're going to see a real surge. And we need to support Downtown Moorhead, Inc., and you, and other Minnesota-based initiatives to catch our part of the growth that we have coming to us. So I appreciate what you've done for us.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Jenny?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Derrick, thanks for your work. I know we've talked frequently, just because your title is Downtown Moorhead Inc., and I know that's the bread and butter of what you need to do, but you are so open to making sure you're working with our other smaller communities and the county as a whole, so that we can holistically, address the challenges that we're all facing. I don't have to remind you that there's lots of dialogue within the community that are really concerned at the rate in which we're seeing some businesses close. And there's a variety of reasons for that, and challenges and opportunities, whatever that may be. We need to collectively share our story better, that there are great successes, and Fauzia's presentation coming up is a large success that we can all rally around to support. A lot of times I feel like people get really picky and choosy in what they want to see in their community. And the reality is any growth is great growth, and a community can learn to support all of that. And as I serve on the Chamber Legislative Committee, Derrick is on that. Derrick has heard our legislative priorities that we'll talk about later. And I appreciate the phone calls that you're making, because you're right, lobbying is not fun, but cultivating relationships is how communities and municipalities and counties are successful in securing funds for their area. And thank you for making those connections.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner.
Okay. Probably we can add another title to your name there yet.
Yeah.
Some sort of Clay County Coordinator, or whatever title you want. Anybody else got some comments, or you got anything additional you want to add?
I would just say thank you for your support. I think, again, 2024 is going to be a big year. I think all of you stressed on the importance of a variety of different topics that are not only our businesses are facing, but how we can all be a listening ear to figure out what can be a valuable resource to folks. I think I'm not going to pretend to know exactly what every business is feeling or what they need. But the more we can kind of gather as a collective, whether it is the city, the county, and other cities throughout the county, I think we can find the right toolbox to support, especially on the border where it is tougher. I know restaurants is a big topic of concern. Tip credit is a real thing. Tip credit is a very big challenge on the border. So having the understanding of what that means and what we can do to support, I think is important. So appreciate all your support. I view this as a partnership and a collaborative effort. So again, thank you for your time this morning, and Merry Christmas.
Thank you for being here, and
you.
hope to see you again soon. Give us more good
Absolutely.
news.
Mr. Chair, one final thing, if I can. I just want to point out, Derrick, I know, thank you again, and I know we have an item coming up that we're going to talk about our 2024 budget, and I'm going to come back to this topic when we have that. You certainly don't have to stay for it, but I'm going to certainly be bringing up some things in regards to the 2024 budget that can have an impact on what you're doing, so.
I appreciate that, and unfortunately I have a 10 a.m. for a new project coming to Moorhead, so I have to step away for that one. So
Okay.
Thank you all.
Well, get busy.
Yeah, thank you all.
Have a good Christmas.
You too.
Okay, we'll bring the sheriff up here. We'll bring that addenda item up here. We can get that item taken care of.
Yeah.
There's a purchase agreement between the city of Moorhead and Clay County.
Yeah, good morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. Thanks for having us. Thanks for squeezing us in this morning. What we have in front of us here is a canine purchase agreement. One of our new hires is Officer Zach Johnson with the Moorhead Police Department. He's currently a canine handler with the City of Moorhead Police Department. And Chief Monroe approached me about purchasing canine cash. Canine cash will be 6 years old in April. He does have some service life left in him, and it would be a good benefit for Clay County to utilize canine cash within the sheriff's office. I did reassure Chief Monroe that we would definitely make not only canine cash, but all of our canines available to the city of Moorhead. Due to their unfortunate event that they had with canine Zeke, where they had lost canine Zeke, they will be down to no canines. So we will make sure that they do have canines available to them. I'm not requesting any additional funds for this purchase. We do have funds available to make this purchase, and Our county attorney did review this agreement as well and gave his okay for it.
Yes.
Sheriff, there is going to be a cost with the fit up for a squad with canine equipment.
That's correct, yes, and that's going to be another meeting or request that I do have in with our current county administrator. But it'd be about $5,600. I do have the quote for that, for the canine cage and things like that. And I am going to be requesting public safety funds for that. I believe Steve has worked up some numbers or something for that. Is that correct?
Not to jump the gun on anything, but with the unfortunate loss of one canine for Moorhead, I mean, they're down to zip. And that's part of the county as well. And I'm comfortable, I trust your assurances. We may end up having one more canine than we usually operate with, but I think the increased demand that we're gonna see to support Clay County residents that live in Moorhead with the services of a canine, I appreciate the fact that we're gonna have resources where we can call upon to respond to back Moorhead on it. There's always been a tradition of that, and I really hope we can maintain that, because Moorhead getting another dog and getting a handler trained with personnel issues and cost and getting into schools and everything else, it's not a quick turnaround. It may be a year or better, I would speculate, before they can get a dog out there and a handler, so.
I know they are trying to see if they can get into this spring school, but it would be tough still for them, I believe. So in working with Chief Monroe and Deputy Chief Jacobson, we just feel that this is probably the best case scenario, not only for Canine Cash, but the handler's family, our community, many different people and organizations that donated to Canine Cash. This is definitely the best case scenario.
I appreciate that.
That almost sounded like a motion, so.
I'll offer.
I will make the motion to authorize the payment to Moorhead for canine cash.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, we got a motion and a second to authorize this purchase. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
With that, we bring Corey up here for approval to pay more public service on the Resource Recovery Center project.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, and thank you. A couple weeks ago, it came to my attention that we had a bill from 2020, the end of 2020, that was actually performed at the beginning of 2021, to bring power and fiber optic into the new RRC. It was missed in the financial packet back in that timeframe. So I would like a motion to pay the $21,400 to the Moorhead Public Service to cover that bill.
My question is just,
Chair,
how have we not known about this before? I'm not against paying the bill, but why haven't we known about this?
I was just gonna go there for you.
Okay,
Would you like me to answer, or would you like to?
well, I'd like an
Do
answer.
you want to take a stab at it, and then I'll
I
fill
can.
in the blanks?
It was originally, the bill was brought up, and with the email string I have from back in 2020 and 2021, Moorhead asked the former head of solid waste to bring it to the board, and it never got brought forward. I think at some point it just got dropped through the cracks. I'm not pointing fingers at anybody, but it was originally a $50,000 bill, and it dropped down to $21,400. So I think it just originally was dropped, the ball was dropped, so.
Oh, we wait a little bit longer, it's gonna drop some more, or? Excuse me, no.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I guess, going to your question, and that's something that, I've tried to pride myself being on top of these things, and the fact of the matter is, if you don't know about it, it's hard to include it. And, that kind of fell on the responsibility of, in my determination of the previous person in that position, should have informed us of that, and it was never done. And
I guess I was
it's
just surprised
unfortunate,
that
but we
have
have to pay it.
A bill from almost 3-4 years ago, and no one's aware of it, and it just, we didn't get a second request or third request, or?
The term I got was, they got ghosted. They were sending emails and nobody was responding. Well, once the former gentleman left, his email account was closed. So they actually reached out to Joe about 2-3 weeks ago and got in touch with me, and that's when I started.
Very good, okay. Thank you for the explanation.
I'll make a motion, we approve the payment to public service for the $21,400.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion, a second to approve paying the bill. Any further discussion? Go ahead.
I just would like to say that, that facility is a jointly operated facility with the city of Moorhead and ourselves. And there were a lot of things happening during that time. There was turnover from both departments, and certainly there was no malice behind it. It's just when you're opening an enormous facility and changing operations the way we did, sometimes, unfortunately, it slips through the cracks. Our apologies for that. But hoping that we'll make that right with paying this, and I know we have a good working relationship with those folks at the facility.
Okay, we got a motion, a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay. With that, we'll get on to Mark and talk about allocating public safety aid funds for NG 911 GIS data, validation assistance. It's a long title there, but go for it.
All right, thank you and good morning. Thank you for having me today. Just a recap of where we're at. So 911 is the phone number that you call when there's an emergency. And to route the responders to where you're going, we have systems in place that do that. And here right now we're using something called E911 or Enhanced 911. E911 uses a tabular data system that basically it has a telephone number and the address where that number is, and then who the emergency responders are to that address. That worked really well when everybody had a landline telephone. And since that no longer is the case, where now most people have cell phones, the system has to adapt to handle calls coming from anywhere because the cell phone can move. So what the system that they're putting into place is something called Next Generation 911. And the big difference between Next Generation 911 and E911 is instead of using a tabular database of where the call is coming from, it ties directly to GIS data, or a geographic information system data. So the call comes in, it drops it on the map, and it figures out who the responders are, and then the dispatchers are able to send them out. To make all of that work, we have to have the data behind us, that's running behind the scenes to make this function. We've been at this for quite a while, building the data, then we had to migrate the data into the new state standards, and we've done quite a few steps to get our data ready. In Minnesota, the counties are required to provide the data for their county for the Next Generation 911 system. And we're required also to meet state standards, and there's also a bunch of other things that we need to do to make sure we're ready to provide that. The stage we're at right now is our data has been prepared and it's ready to go, and we're going through something called validation, which is a very complex process of making sure that our GIS data is accurate and correct and everything's working like it's supposed to. And so there's a lot of different steps we go through. And we were doing all this work in-house, but we were finding that we just didn't have enough time. Our staff had other stuff to do. So what we've been doing for the last few months is hiring a contractor to help us with the validation. And they take our data, they run these checks on it, and then they send it back, and then we fix it, and it keeps going back and forth. Well, what's happened is, as we're working through this, we ran out of budgeted dollars. I ran out of money. So looking at other options, we came across the public safety aid funds that were available, and I met with the committee and talked to them about what we're trying to do, and I'd like to use $20,900 of those dollars to continue using our contractor to help us complete the validation process. There's 9 steps in the validation process. We've completed 7 of them. We're in the last 2 steps, so we're getting pretty close to done. So I'm hoping to have this wrapped up in the next few weeks, and these funds will help us do that and keep it moving along and have our data ready to be integrated into the Next Generation 911 system.
Yes.
I just want to, the Public Safety Committee recommended this. This is a critical issue, particularly when you look at the RRDC's profile. We've got numerous agencies rural fire departments. We've got a large area in Cass and Clay County with 250,000 people. And our side of the responsibility in Clay County, Mr. Sloan has done an excellent, and his people have done an excellent job up to this point. But you can't expect them to meet all the needs, the demands of that department, and still put the kind of time into validating this data that needs to go into it to do it right. So this is a good use of funds, and we've determined that, and I hope the commission will be supportive of it. With that, I'd like to make a motion to approve this use of public safety money.
Second.
I got a motion second. My question would be, does every county have to pay pretty much to do what you're doing here?
Yes. Yes, correct. And different counties are doing it different ways, of course, because some counties don't have GIS staff like we have, so they are using other vendors, or there's a lot of ways it's being done, but yes, every county's doing this.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, request approval of a letter of support for Moorhead Cultural Mall project. I guess you'll have to introduce yourself. I don't have your name on here, I guess.
As Fauzia is getting ready with the presentation, I might just speak quickly. Commissioner Campbell and I had the opportunity to have this presentation from Fauzia that we're about to see at the City of Moorhead offices with Mayor Carlson and others. And as we spoke to during Derrick LaPoint's presentation, this is a great opportunity, proposal really that Fauzia has for a solution for a very large vacant building in Moorhead. And we're excited about the dynamic proposal that you have for the space and our community.
I'm sorry, Paul, I guess I did have your name in front of me. Excuse me for not looking good enough. You introduce yourself and your next person with you there.
Thank you for having me. My name is Fauzia Adi. I'm the Executive Director of the Immigrant Development Center, and I have Talou with me, who's working with me in the office. I would like to walk you through today's presentation. I am working with the Immigrant Development Center, which is based in Moorhead here. And I'm here for the Cultural Mall, and I'm here to ask for a letter of support and also what they call permission to continue this work. So thank you for having us. Let me see how I can. Moorhead Cultural Mall. It is we are looking at the Wells of Fargo building in downtown. And we have a negotiation that we started with Realtor, Immigrant Development Center, the history of Immigrant Development Center. Immigrant Development Center was founded in 2006, but 2009 is when we start getting funding and all that. And our organization focuses on economy development, in particular working with entrepreneurs, micro lending, and entrepreneurial development. City of Moorhead. The City of Moorhead is a vibrant, growing city with diverse makeup and strong tourism. So this will be an ideal environment for the cultural mall that we are looking at. And this is also will give the new American to have a chance to grow with the City of Moorhead, the growth that is happening in downtown. We are very fortunate to be part of this work. City of Moorhead, the census of 2020, 42,507. That's, we find it from the regular census. The age of the, we are very young community from 30 years and older. And also the jobs that we have, most of the jobs that we have in Moorhead is education, health, and retail. Sorry, I left my eyeglasses behind.
Oh, no.
Moorhead Cultural Mall will bridge cultures, support economic growth, partner with local organization, create jobs, establish a vibrant community gathering space, promote cultural tourism to the region. Total project cost. The total project cost, we brought out here a general contractor who looked at it and who told us how much it will cost. If you want to see those numbers, we will send it. It's a 15 million total project cost, including buying the building. The building, we negotiated down to 2.9, the purchase price. They were asking for 3 point something. So we negotiated to 2.9. It's 43,000 square foot, 872, 88 parking lots. And so we are also talking about increasing the parking lot or how we can open up inside. I'm sure you guys have been in that building before. So the key of businesses that can be in there, we are thinking about cafeterias, restaurants, grocery, after-school programs, because the building has a basement, it has mezzanine, and it has third floor. We want to put to use every space. Also, art, gallery, and public spaces we will have in that area. The funding resources that we are looking at is we are introducing a bill at the state, 7,250,000. We have a lobbyist that we hired in St. Paul who is working hard, and he's very connected to this community. And we are working very closely with the city of Moorhead, working with also all the nonprofits around this area who are minority nonprofits to also kind of help us and support us and also give us a letter of support. For us right now, we are more focused on gathering the resources that we need for this project. Also, we are asking $8 million to a bank that we already approached, based in Minneapolis, Stern Bank. Also, we are working on raising up to $2 million through foundations around our area. New market tax credit, we will be working with MMCDC, which is located in Detroit Lakes. And also, we have an asset from our first project in Fargo that's called the International Market Plaza. The $700,000 that we put it down, it's an asset that we can use when we are applying for loans. Mm-hmm. So this project, it will create 34, we are looking into up to 35 businesses that will be in there. If all those 35 businesses hire 1 or 2 person, we are looking at up to creating 64 jobs. And so with working with DEED, this numbers, it's what they like to hear. But also for the new Americans, it will be job creation. Also, it will be also working with people who are low income to increase their income and to become a self-sufficient and also be independent and, not to be kind of always being on the system. Rather, they will be on their own. And it's equity building and generational wealth building for new Americans. We are thinking about to renovate inside the building, but also there is another conversation, maybe expanding the building a little bit where the drive-through is. So I want to thank you for having me today. And I really worked so hard to be here today. We did a lot of groundwork. We did what they call feasibility study. We put a lot of one-on-one time. We put a lot of relationship building. We went all over, and we are very thankful to be here today, and we would like to get your support. If we get this support, it will create jobs for new Americans. It will create a business that will make our community vibrant, and it will create a space where the new Americans who are part of Clay County to grow in this area and become a self-sufficient community who will contribute in the economy. So thank you so much.
Excuse my ignorance, but who are you associated with in the city or the colleges, or are you just,
We are very close with the city of Moorhead. I'm working with city manager Dan Malley and Lisa Bode, who worked with us in the beginning. We are a nonprofit organization who have 501c3 and have been around for so long, 17 years now.
Fauzi is the executive director of the
yes, I see
Immigrant
that,
Development.
okay.
Yeah.
I just wonder what the agencies, which, oh, yeah.
Yeah, just a couple of questions as this goes forward. So, I would say, what entity, you're sort of creating a place for businesses to come, or that are separate entities, right? That are going to lease space from you, or I guess I'm trying to figure out the structure here. Who owns the building at the end of the day? Is it whoever owns it now, and you're trying to put businesses within it?
So the building will be owned by the Immigrant Development Center. It will be a nonprofit owned, but then it will become a LLC. So the way it will work is the building, it will become a LLC. The LLC will be owned by the nonprofit.
Okay.
So first, we were working on something that's called a geobound, which the city would be the one who will own, but after a lot of meeting and consulting, the city said we are better off that we don't have to kind of do day in, day out work. If you can do this job, then go ahead. So we have done this kind of work before. We are the founder of the International Market Plaza in Main Avenue in Fargo. So, and we have done it, so we kind of know how to do it. And we have partners in Minneapolis, like the Neighborhood Development Center and the MMCDC, who are in Detroit Lakes, who are very good advisors on the table working with us.
Awesome. Well, I hope this really works. I'm very excited for you and moving this forward. And the only thing, again, just kind of my corner of the world, with food production, that type of thing, just want you to be aware, we can talk in detail later, but there are grants out there going through the state for business centers to help develop them within foods and other things. So I think there's other opportunities maybe to help.
Appreciate it. We are also working with the gardening group in this area, Verna, to kind of working with New American gardeners to become a farmer's market in the summer and the market. So there is, yes, I will be talking to you. Appreciate it.
Mr. Chair. Thank you. I am so excited about this proposal. As we just heard Derrick LaPoint talking about the 10 businesses that Clay County did secure out of the enormous Moorhead Center Mall that are continuing to reinvest in Moorhead, and just hearing about the potential businesses that you could bring to this area. I think the location is fantastic. It is a nod to the Historical and Cultural Society of Clay County that is not that far away from this site. What more to honor the historical and cultural groups in which you represent, to give them a place, to make them a visible part of this community, as they already are, but to have an ability to allow space for businesses. The business climate is tricky. There is not adequate space available for some of these new businesses to start out. As you look at what is available in the community, it's really hard to come up with millions of dollars to build a new building or purchase a new building to move into. And talking about bringing jobs to almost 60 people in the community, why wouldn't we support this? It is incredibly, incredibly exciting. And I've talked with you about my children being on teams with kids who their families would go to St. Cloud for a tournament and then continue on to Minneapolis because that was the only place in Minnesota in which they could buy the spices that they were used to. So if we could bring that here and make sure that people are coming here to invest those dollars, it's just thinking not outside of the box, but thinking in a great inventive way to make sure those dollars stay here. So thank you.
Yes, it will be space where also Pelican Rapid, Fargus Falls, the small communities around this area can also come and shop. They still do that now, so it will give them more opportunity. And we will have more opportunity to test our neighbors' bread. You know, we will have bakeries in there from Iraqi woman. We will have, Bosnian bread. We will have a lot of good stuff that we didn't test it yet. And we have those cultures part of us. And, we have the new Ukrainian community who are coming. And we don't know what good they are bringing in their bags. So we have a lot of culture to exchange. And also, at the same time, help those families make a better, money for their children and bring income, bread at home.
And thank you. This is, I find this exciting. Thank you for the previous meeting too that we had, Commissioner Mosher and I had the opportunity to. One of the things that we sometimes hear in Moorhead is, boy, we just don't have the food choices in the Moorhead area that other communities have, and what a bright idea this can be that can bring other cultural type of food products or vendors into our community that gives more choices for all of us to go and enjoy. I think that's a really good opportunity, as well as the ability to share in the crafts and artwork that are done that are out, that we are normally not accustomed to, but we also find interesting and might want to purchase. So I think overall it's a good fit. I think Derrick LaPoint said it as well. I think it'll just blend in beautifully with the downtown vision that's moving forward, and nothing better than to have a variety of spice in our life that gives us a lot of opportunities. So I'm in full support of your request, and thank you for being here.
So we don't have to eat hamburgers every day?
That's right. Frank, I'll buy you lunch there.
No onions. Okay.
Mr. Chair, I would make a motion to sign a letter of support for this Moorhead Cultural Mall project, and also give our blessing for your project to continue.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
The only additional component that I had is part of the discussion we talked about was there's so many layers of overlap of committees that we serve on that could be really helpful in securing additional state funds. Commissioner Krabnoff, as you talked about, serves on the Cass Clay Food Commission, and the New Roots, New American Farming component plays really well into that, as it does with the Soil and Water Conservation District and the Extension Committee. So as all of us have different portfolios that we serve on, if you feel like there's an area of overlap, that a letter of support would be helpful, making sure that you're bringing that back to that committee and working with Fausia to get a letter of support as well.
I think that's great, and I noticed that we have somebody in attendance here from the Chamber of Commerce, and I would hope that the Chamber of Commerce will be jumping on board on this as well as a positive for our community, so. Thank you.
Okay.
I'm so excited. I appreciate it so much.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. So send a letter of support for the Moorhead Culture Mall project. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay. Thank you for your presentation and for continuing, keep downtown Moorhead going. And the next thing we got on the agenda, approval agreement with the BNSF for the 11th Street Underpass project. Justin? Just a small project coming up.
Yes, good morning. So the first item I have is requesting approval of the agreement with BNSF for the 11th Street Underpass. So over the past many months, there's been a lot of work that's gone into this agreement with the city of Moorhead, MnDOT, and BNSF. Ultimately, what this agreement is it kind of lays out maintenance post-construction. So the actual construction agreement is with MnDOT. This is just for post-project, and it also defines ownership of the bridge being Burlington Northern. So this agreement has been reviewed by the county's attorney's office as well, and this one mirrors MnDOT's, and I'm pretty comfortable with it.
Okay?
Mr. Chair, this is something that we've been working on for a number of years right now, and if you recall, I think we have, if you look on here, the cost and impact and funding source for Clay County is $1.5 million that we've dedicated to this project. It's been included in our 5-year plan. It's certainly doable. I find it, I just want to commend Justin and Dr. Zimmerman from the city of Moorhead and others in convincing the railroad that they should be the owners of these bridges and not the county or the city. And they were successful in being able to convince the railroad to do that. And that was a major milestone, I think, on our part to have that done. And this project is we're gonna start seeing a lot of activity on this starting up this spring. It's ultimately gonna be great for the city of Moorhead, and certainly should be supporting this agreement.
Yeah, just a question, if I may, Justin, Commissioner Campbell, even yourself, I think roads and bridges, right? Yeah. So can you tell me a little background on the $1.5 million, how that's worked, is be part of the 5-year plan, or how that works in that mix?
So initially it was $500,000, and then obviously as construction prices rose, MnDOT approached, as well as the city approached the county asking for additional funds. And that's when we came up with the 1.5 and said that's the most that we could commit to the project, because anything more than that would have been a significant impact.
How does that work on an annual basis?
So I think we've got it.
So, sorry.
Go ahead.
So at 1.5 is for 2024, so they'll be requesting those funds sometime in January, and then that is our commitment to the project, and we're capped at 1.5.
And that comes out of all of our different allotments through the state. There's, I don't think we have any local dollars in it. It's our state money that comes in.
Okay.
That's part of that process. I do want to mention too that for a lot of people who may not understand this, but 11th Street North is a county road right up to Center Avenue.
That's correct.
And so the first bridge that we're gonna be going under is it's county road in there. So we really should, when you look at what is the total price tag on this thing now?
It's well north of $100 million, I believe.
It's over $100 million.
120.
And, I think we're getting by pretty reasonable at $1.5 million on our behalf based, thank you to the federal and state dollars that have been done to do it. But, yeah, I just think it's a worthwhile project to fund.
I'll make a motion before it goes up some more.
Okay, I'll make that. Mr. Chair, I would move that we approve the agreement with BNS on the 11th Street Underpass project.
A second.
We got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Yes, so the second item I have, this is a long-awaited one, is the approval to hire an assistant county engineer. So the Highway Tracking Committee held interviews on November 28th and felt one applicant stood out above the rest, and I'm requesting approval to hire the applicant at grade 21, step 5.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
We, due to the timing of the end of the year and other meetings, we did not have the opportunity to have a PIC committee meeting to discuss the offering of the grade and step. However, both Commissioner Gross and I did have conversation with our county engineer and felt that given the difficulty to make this, to fill this position and the quality of the person that we'll be offering it to, felt it was warranted.
And I would also say that our Highway Tracking Committee, we were involved with the interview process, and certainly it should speak for itself what his first comments were, how long it's taken us. I think that explains why we need to do this, so.
That sounded close to a motion.
Okay, that is the motion, Mr. Chair,
Okay.
too.
I'll second.
You got a motion and a second to the hiring of new candidates, grade 21, step 5. All in
correct.
favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you.
Okay, we are going to take a short break and be right back in about 5 minutes. It's back up there. Okay, so welcome back. We'll continue on with the meeting. We hold our coffee drinking. We can probably finish this yet. Okay, the next item is our request approval of the Clay County's 2024 legislative priorities.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As you certainly recall, this board had a work session group on November 14th where we identified specific legislative priorities that are specific to Clay County for the upcoming legislative session. We are certainly fortunate to work closely with the Association of Minnesota Counties that often lobby for our different policy groups as a whole, but this board felt it was important that we bring forward some legislative priorities in this session. And so this commission heard presentations from various departments of issues that were of concern and have 3 main areas to which this board felt we needed to bring forward to have further discussion on. And so the first item that we'd be bringing forward would be the flood diversion funding. We had some discussions back in last year, a year ago, and felt that it was important to make sure that as the diversion is in construction, that we bring forward the support financially that we were required to as a part of the conditions of the permit. And so I'd first yield that for any comments on flood diversion funding.
Mr. Chair, thank you, Stephen. Yesterday, Commissioner Mojo and I had the opportunity to sit down and meet with the mayor of Moorhead and members of the Diversion Authority and the Moorhead City Manager. And Steve was not able to be there, but we had our assistant administrator there, and we had quite a conversation regarding the approach to take in moving forward with the request. Certainly, Clay County, as you remember in our work group that we did earlier, we did agree that we felt that it was important for us to make the ask for everything, in both the in-town work that still need to be done as well as all of the work that needs to be, it's not a lot of work, but a lot of land acquisitions that needs to be done. Plus we have road issues in Wolverton and Georgetown that are still the responsibility of us to, in this project to do. And Commissioner Mojo and I believe, I think said the message that this is all one project. It's got different components to it, but it's all one project that we need to look to get to the end of the line with the appropriate funding. So having said that, I think you've seen previous documents. I had Steve I made a copy of, and I just did some notations on. So one of the things, the biggest issue now is the messaging moving forward, because early on, I think in June, Moorhead had sent in their own request through the process for their two items, the flood control lift station as well as the a road raise. Their total request is $14.72 million. So they've already got that in a bill, and ours is not incorporated into a bill yet. We're still in the process of working that out with our local legislatures to have that submitted. You know, so part of the concern of Moorhead was that, you know, we don't want to send a confusing message to it, so that, you know, that we're understanding that it's still all one project. And so if you look at the document that's there, and it's just a draft that we were kind of messing around with yesterday, and we looked at making some changes to that document that will help give a clear message on what we want to, what our needs are. And so you'll notice there, and this is my chicken scratch that I did from the meeting, and basically putting both of the City of Moorhead's and Clay County's icons together there, so that it's saying we're together on this. And then all of the items then would fall listed below that. And so then where Moorhead's projects would be listed, there'll be a little bit side note to it. It'll say which House file and Senate file number that's attached to those. And then if you'll notice, I did, and this is just for us to be considering on how we want to move forward this, but I went through on the 6 items that are below that are outside of the city. I put numbers on them in terms of what I thought our priority would be in terms of if we didn't get all the funding, what should come first, second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth. And so I just, those are my numbers. It's something for us to talk about if you so choose moving forward. That doesn't need to be decided today. I think the biggest issue that we made it clear to the City of Moorhead, we have an obligation through our joint powers agreement that we need to be asking for the full needs of the project, the full county needs. And we should not alter that position one bit. You know, but now how we can go about messaging, we agreed then after our meeting yesterday, I think we agreed that we'll come back together with that smaller group the first part of January and hopefully get this ironed out, the messaging piece as we move forward. We have the chamber here. They're going to be going there in February. We want everybody to have the same message going forward as to how we want to tackle this and get the funding that we need. And so with that, I think for today's purpose, we're not suggesting that we approve any final draft of this document. We intend to bring forward to you another draft once we get if you guys want to give us input. In the meantime, based on what we have here, you can do that. We don't need it today either. But the main thing that we need to do today is to continue with what our message was in our work group and the results of our work group, that we support the full funding of $52.42 million to complete the Minnesota's financial needs for this project. And I think we should allow Commissioner Mosher was part of this, and I'm sure has something to say about it.
Well, I appreciate you guys presenting this, and because I value your opinion on what needs to be done on this, and I would definitely consider approving that. So we want to hear from Jenny here.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. As laid out, this board has taken a really strong position on making sure that we're advocating for all of our communities within Clay County for how this project could potentially benefit them. There's a significant amount of mitigation that I've fought really hard for. We all have that is part of the project. And part of the other component is that we've heard loudly from state representatives and senators, whether they were coming for the committee chair tours or our visits and conversations that we've had over the past year, that what is the final number? When are we going to be done with requests from Moorhead and Clay County on flood mitigation. And we've promised that that end is coming soon. That goes back to the significant amount of dollars that Senator Langseth was able to secure for this community. And so what we're proposing is that we do provide that final number for what the work that is yet to be done is. It's around $52 million. I don't have that here, but so that we can move forward, understanding there are certain components of the project that need to be completed first. And on this document, there are components within the city of Moorhead. There are components that the Buffalo Red Watershed District is leading, and then there's components in outer Clay County, both north and south of the city of Moorhead, that need to be completed. And so we are proposing that this is our talking sheet. We'll finalize that in January, and then we will all have opportunities to share the story. I heard from my grandpa when I was little, who was a state rep, that if you're telling a representative or a senator about your project in April, about how much you need the money in April of a session, it's too late. And so we took a stance this year to make sure that we're getting our policy platform sooner rather than later, so that we can have those conversations before they even go down to St. Paul. And hopefully we can secure funding, because in this, there's vital money that will go to sedimentary mitigation and the Georgetown levee, the Wolverton project, the southern embankment reaches, as noted, the lift and control stations and road raises in Moorhead. And finally, but also equally important, is the upstream mitigation area property and relocations. So certainly these are not new projects that you've seen. We're just tweaking what the talking points are as we approach it collectively. And yeah, I'm really excited at the opportunity to join with Moorhead to advocate for these funds.
And again, I can't reiterate enough that back when we signed the JPA on with the Diversion Authority, what our responsibilities were, and our responsibilities were to collectively go to the state to secure the funds needed for this project on the Minnesota side. Because we made it clear up front that it would be very difficult to have local dollars raised to invest into the project on this side of the river. But we did say that we would use all of our efforts to work to get the help from the state. And I think, you know, by us doing this, we will be fulfilling that obligation. Next.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Commissioners, the second item that was brought forward for consideration was 911 emergency response funds. As we've discussed here in a number of sessions, there's a fee on our cell phone bills that are allotted to 911 fees. And we, as a county, have made the determination that we then split those fees with the city of Moorhead and also our rural communities. Having said that, there's a greater need from a 911 service standpoint, and Commissioner Ebinger serves on the AMC policy group, and I'll turn it over to you at this point.
Yeah, we're looking at, I've had a conversation with Representative Joy and Senator Kupak on this topic. Representative Joy has made inquiries into exactly how much money is paid by Clay County residents, and whether you have a 701 or a 218 area code. If you reside in Clay County, the 911 fee that you pay goes to the state on behalf of Clay County. I've yet to get a clear answer back, but when I was in law enforcement, the amount that we got back was 14% of that. And the disparity we look at when we look at the situation Cass County, North Dakota's in, who's our partner in operating the dispatch center, almost all their annual operational costs are met by the 911 fees that are collected by North Dakota, and over 90% of it goes back to them for operations. Legitimately, the state had a claim when they were putting in the armor system that a lot of 911 fees should be diverted to the state to get the armor backbone system up and running. It has been up and running for 8 or 9 years now, completed. And they went so far as 2 sessions ago to actually cut the 911 fee. We, in talking to our smaller cities in Clay County, they want to know why they can't get these costs covered by the county government. And the simple answer is, we're not getting the 911 fees back that you see elsewhere. Senator Joy has not had much luck in finding out exactly how much is collected by each county from their citizens. I think we've made some inquiries, and I don't believe we've had any luck with that. But I know that there is some legislation being considered. Another aspect we've got is the next generation fees. We've got to rewrite our state statute on emergency communications because it's so out of date, it doesn't make any reference to next generation 911. There's going to be a large amount of federal money that's going to be available that if we don't have state statutes that addresses it, we're going to be left out in the cold. And that right now is in stasis. They're getting a third-party moderator in to try and get the group that I'm part of, trying to get the statute updated. And we're having some problem with the lobbyists for the landline service providers. So there's going to be sort of a moving picture here on where we're going with 911 legislation. And right now, it is not clear if that's going to be a priority, but there's going to be work done on it. We have a legislator who is active in this, and we have communities within Clay County that are encouraging this type of legislation to move forward to cover the costs of 911. You've also got to look at regionally, particularly in northwest part of the state. We have got portable radios, mobile radios that are going out of date. We've got consoles that need to be replaced. There's a lot of money, particularly moving in next generation 911, that's going to have to be focused towards equipment. We don't know what the federal assistance is going to be on that. If we don't get the statutes updated, that could inhibit us getting federal funding. So there's got to be a lot of work on these issues in the next several legislative years, and we've got to get started on it in this one.
Thank you, Commissioner Eberger. The final legislative priority that was brought forward for consideration is mental health acuity. We've had a lot of discussions at a board of the challenges that we have had with our citizens in mental health issues, many of which have gotten seemingly worse since COVID. There's been a significant challenge for our citizens, for our social service department, to find placements for those, both adults and youth, in need of services in the state of Minnesota, inpatient services, oftentimes with a 3 to 6 month waiting period when they're at their greatest time of need. That is not something that they can wait for. And so one of the issues that was brought forward was the idea of a psychiatric residential treatment center. A PRTF. A PRTF is a facility that is focused on youth, those juveniles, not adults. And so we're really looking at adding to the continuum of care for needs within our community. Our juvenile facility, as we heard a few weeks ago, has done a great job in amending and adjusting their program to work to meet with these needs. But everybody also knows that a secure, non-secure placement is not the best place to receive the services that many of these people needs or youth need. We've seen over nearly 1,000 beds lost as the need has risen over the last few years. And so this was an issue that was brought forward as a potential legislative priority for Clay County.
Thank you for that, Steve. Yeah, you kind of mentioned a few of the things I was going to also, but to bring awareness to this, specific to our northwest central area, this was all brought up and discussed at the AMC convention with a focus on that. They mentioned almost everything that you did, and they use the word desert out here, that we're just in a area where facilities aren't even reachable, you know, on a regular basis. So bringing that here, I've had, it's been probably 3 weeks, so it's been a little bit here. My last discussion with Representative Keeler, but it is our full intent, such as these other things, to see what we can do to bring some legislative pot of money, perhaps, to help to identify the needs to this area and what that service area may look like, not only for Clay County, but for our surrounding counties around us to act in a, maybe as a hub, if you will, for a treatment facility that would help this upper northwest area. So we'll move on.
Thank you, Francis. I am, you know, a lot of the work that we do is hard. And this item is really hard. Minnesota needs to do better. North Dakota needs to do better, but I can't really control that. But Minnesota particularly needs to do better. The state just closed over 1,000 mental health crisis beds. And so what happens is a family gets caught in a vicious cycle of helping to deal with their loved one in a way that can improve a person's life and keep a person in the community. And what our juvenile detention center has done is, even though it's really difficult work, we've proven through that there are great success stories and great partners in collaboration there. We have the Moorhead schools offering classes to those young people so that they can stay and go to school in our community or in a close community to where they're from, and provide the supports that they need to deal with some of the issues that they're going through. And the reason why this is important, as Commissioner Gross said earlier, is we are the 4th fastest growing county in Minnesota. And we have taken challenges head on. And unfortunately, they're not always in the really glamorous things that we want, but they make really sustainable changes. And after community conversations with stakeholders, as Commissioner Kravinoff talked about, Representative Keeler said, this is something we can do here. You know, it's going to take a lift, as it always does, and there are partners that are willing to be part of that lift, but the opportunity to provide a PRTF in the community here is really an unanswered prayer to a lot of families. And so hopeful that we can work towards some sort of funding to provide that, that component that is just not present in our community or state.
I'd have to agree with that. I mean, when you look at what we do to families that have the need for this type of facility, and we say, no, you gotta go to another county to get your needs, you know, you can't get it here in Clay County, we can't do anything for you, so, well, I think we gotta put a high priority in trying to get that part done. So, I don't know if we're gonna if we're gonna say this is number 1, number 2, number 3 priority. I'd put that at number 1 priority almost. Although we need to work on all 3, but.
I think that, if I might, you know, the areas are so different in terms of what they're addressing. So I struggle with putting one over the other. However, we've been part of those discussions statewide at the Association of Minnesota Counties, and what number 3 is talking a lot about, you know, what Commissioner Krabenoff has done, and number 2 is Commissioner Ebinger's work as well, but infrastructure needs, number 1, is a very high priority in a lot of different ways, and so I'm not necessarily wanting to personally have a number on that. I think we have different representatives and senators that are willing to champion each and to provide a valued testimony and support to all of those dialogues is so important.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Yeah, I think Commissioner Mojo was onto it there. When you look at these 3 things that are important to Clay County to be actively pursuing, you'll find that each of them are probably funded through a different mechanism of state government. And we shouldn't say one needs to supersede another, because they're from totally different areas of, I mean, you have your health and human services in one hand, you might have the DNR and flooding is another. They're all going to still apportion some money that's going to be used for the benefit of the state. So I don't think we should go in prioritizing anything. They should all have equal importance. And while I'm at it, I just want to comment on one of the things that Commissioner Ebinger said, and the idea that we're having a difficult time finding how much money. I don't think it takes the wisdom of Solomon to come up with how much money should be collected from 701 and 218 phone numbers. At some point in time, whether it's Verizon or any of these other companies who charge it, they send it to the state. And, the last I've known, the state can get whatever information they want. Now, I don't know if it's either hard to get or they don't want to give it. There might be, there's 2 different things there. But we have a right to know what's being collected from our citizens on this, and I'm thankful that Representative Joy is on it, and I don't think he should stop that question. It's one thing if we're looking for getting an appropriate amount of our local funds collected, we need to know what those are, and if we're getting more than what we're collecting, we don't have much of a case, but we need to know those numbers.
I'm pretty sure we're not getting more
I'm
than
pretty sure too.
what's collected.
I'm pretty sure too. But anyway, that's my little rant on that one, but.
Do we need to vote on this, or we just,
Yeah, I think I'd be looking for a motion for this commission to support the three items.
okay.
I would so move.
Second.
We've got a motion and a second to establish our priorities. Any further discussion?
I might suggest that once we have the documents finalized, this was brought up yesterday, is having a meeting with Senator Johnson and Senator Kupek and Representative Joy and Representative Keeler and Representative Keel, who represent all of Clay County, but making sure that we have the opportunity to share with them what our priorities are, where the priorities come from, and why, and they can help steer us in that dialogue as well.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. With that, we go to next thing, the approval of resolution 2023-35, adopting the Clay County 2024 budget. Steve?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Today is an important day. It's a culmination of a lot of work that started back in May with our department heads formulating their requests to you as a board for resources for 2024. We went through each of those budgets line by line with Ms. Johnson and I, and then presented before this board each of those budgets. This past Tuesday, we had our Truth and Taxation meeting, which allowed this board to provide additional feedback, and also allowed our citizens to provide feedback on our budget. And again, we appreciated the clients that came, or excuse me, our citizens that came forward that took that active part in government. Before you this morning are two motions, or looking for two motions. One, a motion to approve the overall budget, which has expenses of $113,671,318. And a second motion to approve Resolution 2023-35, establishing the amount that we'll be asking our citizens for 2024, the 2024 levy, which is $42,486,797. I would note that this is $114,903 lower than what was presented at our Truth and Taxation meeting after making some adjustments over the last week with Ms. Johnson. So that brought our request from a 3.89% increase to a 3.6% increase. And with that, I'd yield for any questions.
Mr. Chair, before we get into those, I do want to, as I mentioned earlier today, I did want to bring up one area that doesn't change the levy amount, but before we go through the process, I think it's a conversation that we should have, and it's something that I'm going to propose as just a change in where funds are going, as opposed to not adding more or taking away. We as Clay County, like we mentioned earlier when Derrick LaPoint was here, we have a real vested interest in economic development and those types of areas. However, we have limited resources to provide to help assist in that, other than our ability to help from a legislative standpoint. Currently in our budget, and Steve, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but currently we have the $110,000 in our budget for the Greater Fargo-Moorhead EDC. We have $100,000 in for the chamber. We have $25,000 to Downtown Moorhead Inc., and we have $18,000 for West Central Initiative for a total of $253,000. Are my numbers right?
That's correct.
All right, thank you. So with that, we had a presentation this morning. Right now, on this side of the river, there's we're at a critical stage in some development that's happening here. And where we invest our money right now, I think is significantly important to help with that success. And I guess what I'm going to suggest is that for the purposes of 2024 anyway, I would like to see us change the EDC funding to $85,000 and to increase Downtown Moorhead Inc. to $50,000. It does not change the total, but it just appropriate, and it's not taking anything away from the the EDC. But right now, where I think we have critical needs are, and where we could really be helpful, is in funding what Derrick LaPoint talked about today, which is not only good for the city of Moorhead, but it's good for Barnesville, it's good for Dilworth, it's good for Glendon and every other community, Hawley. It's good for all those communities, and I think it would be in our best interest to support an increase in that opportunity.
Yes.
Being the representative to the EDC for the Clay County Commission, I value being part of the regional approach in so many things that we've got, and we should not lose that. However, we have a limited amount of resources, and we need to be cognizant of where we direct them. Where there's a need that benefits our community. And I think Mr. LaPointe has shown the ability to benefit both the county and the city of Moorhead. And he is deserving of appropriate support. So the shifting of funds, in no way do I see that as a criticism of the EDC. They do great work. But I think that Mr. LaPointe is part of an organization that is focused on the Minnesota side and is focused on the needs of this side, and we need to give commensurate support to it. So I think Commissioner Campbell, his recommendation on this is warranted, and Is this going to take, would this take a motion? or-
Yeah, I wanted to have a little conversation on it
Yeah.
first, and I'd be happy to make the motion, but I did want to get others' feedback on it first.
Good.
Mr. Chair, same along with Commissioner Ebinger, I'm on the EDC board also. You know, there, I too would be in favor of this change of funds. I think for two reasons. Number one, I see this as a critical time for the city of Moorhead in its transformation of what may happen downtown and all the other works. I was very encouraged to hear the new business development down in the industrial park. That was truly a surprise to me to hear this morning, and that's the important one. You know, it's gonna, to me, it takes a while to get retail up and running. It's gonna take a number of years to get the downtown project up and running, and we've got some momentum happening on this side that not only creates a larger tax base, it also creates job growth, and with that, homes and communities growing, not only in Moorhead, but throughout the county. So I see it leveraging our money, I think maybe in a more timely way, and to that point, a better way. The other thing I want to mention about, we have a meeting tomorrow with the EDC of the change of their governance structure. And I'm fully in support of that change that they're doing. But their focus is becoming a little more on the private side for guidance, investment, with private corporations, that type thing. And with that, I kind of would almost say, if this decision change happens here, we're almost saying the thing, I feel that, we're putting that toward our economic development here for that private build on this side. So that's my point of view.
Thank you. I also echo the support that was proposed and the comments that were also shared. Last Tuesday, we had a full house for our Truth and Taxation meeting. And I think all of us go home with all of the comments that we received. I'm sure some of you had phone calls over the last week about making sure that we continue to be thoughtful stewards of the taxpayers' dollars, and understanding that sometimes the value that's brought up, the assessed value, is not necessarily the place for that meeting, but I think it's important to know that there's a large shift that we're seeing in some other sectors of property values. And some of that has to do with a lot of the industrial and commercial loss that we've seen. That value gets shifted to other places and is troubling. I alluded to that earlier with my comments when Derrick LaPoint was here. It is troubling to see that there are a lot of businesses that are shifting where they're located and doing business, and everyone has their right to do whatever they need to do. But what I also heard from the community in the last week is, what are we locally doing to make sure that we are a vibrant place, Clay County wide, and Moorhead included, for businesses to set up shop? And I think based on the presentation and advocacy work, and Catherine's here from the chamber, the advocacy work for the Minnesota side with several organizations has really increased in what they're doing for us. And being thoughtful for the taxpayers' dollars, I feel like a shift is really responsible. Derrick has very many times, Derrick and the organization have been responsive to rural Clay County's questions. He was incredibly helpful during the CARES Act business stimulus component that we were trying to do to keep Clay County businesses open. And I think it's because of that bolstering the budget there to help advocate on this side is important. Not to say that there's some sort of shift that may happen at some point, but just so any rural Clay County listener here you know, if they hear, well, they're adding another component to the city of Moorhead's budget. No, that's not what that is. This organization lobbies and advocates for change to make it a good place to do business in Clay County. And a successful community does have a successful business climate. And us making this change is a large step forward in us saying we want to be part of the change to be more hospitable to more businesses being here. So I certainly support the proposal.
Mr. Chair, you know, I think we're in important times here right now, and you know, with the limited resources that we can provide, I really think we need to put those resources where we can get the best bang for the buck. And right now, you know, you've all said it. You heard the presentation from Downtown Moorhead Inc., and it's a resource that's there, that's actively pursuing a vision, but their vision isn't just for the purpose of a specified area in downtown. It is a vision that benefits all of Clay County. And that's through the, you know, the discussion that he talked about in terms of legislative issues and understanding what are the downfalls on this side of the river, what are the legislative issues that they can work together with the chamber and these other agencies to do that. And I just think that right now, the best fit is making a little alteration and where we have those funds. So, Mr. Chair, I would like to make a motion, because we had these items listed by line and by agency, I would like to make a motion to alter the distribution of funds for economic development for the Greater Fargo-Moorhead EDC, 85,000, the chamber to remain at 100,000, Downtown Moorhead Inc. to increase to 50,000, and West Central Initiative 18,000.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second to redistribute the funds. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
You got those, Jackie? Thank you. All right, now we need to vote on the total budget of 113 million.
Mr. Chair, I'd make a motion that we approve the next year's budget at $113,671,318.
Got a motion to approve the budget of 113 million, and whatever number that is. Have a second?
A second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Any further discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Very good. Now we need to motion to set their budget at 3.6% increase.
I'll make a motion to set the levy at 3.6%.
That's a resolution.
Yeah,
Resolution, I'm missing that.
Okay, we got a motion to approve the resolution to set the budget levy at 3.6%.
Resolution 2023-35.
Thank you.
We got it all down now. No,
Second.
thank you. Okay, we got a motion and a second to approve the levy at 3.6%. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Very good. Okay. This time we'll go into a closed session. So, whenever that is ready, we'll go into closed session. Right now, we'll.
Oh, move to close.
Second.
Was there a motion? I moved to close.
Thank you.
Second.
We've got a motion and a second to close for temporarily. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. We're close until. Oh, it looks like we're back on again, so we'll go right into committee reports. Kevin, you want to start us out?
Sure. Was Jackie coming back in? Okay. All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. On December let me just pull up my calendar here. December the 13th, we had, actually December 12th, we had the Public Safety Committee, and there was just a few items on there which we acted on the one item today. Then on the 13th, we did have our first county, what's the name of it here? Coordination plan. Jenny, what's the?
Ordinance update.
Ordinance update, thank you.
Yep.
We had the first meeting on that, and it was basically, we went over, that one was in regards to feedlot issues and those, and animal issues that are proposed changes to that. On the 14th, I had several meetings. The first one was Lakes Country Service Cooperative meeting in Fergus Falls. As you remember, there were 3 positions up for re-election, 4 people running, and the 3 that were re-elected were Kurt Mortensen of Otter Tail County, myself, and David Meyer from Becker County. And a longstanding member of that group who represented the city of Fergus Falls was the 4th place vote getter. He missed by 2 votes. But fortunately, within the system, one of the school board members had lost out in their election, and part of the bylaws allowed for us to appoint, and so we appointed that individual to another 1-year term on there. So all 4 members were able to continue on. The rest of us were elected to 4-year terms. We had received health insurance updates. That's pretty much it on that. Then I came back here in the afternoon. First meeting in the afternoon was the Moorhead Clay County Joint Powers Authority. We got some very good updates on the Clara Cemetery, where that's going, and a new proposal there on a change in alignment of that idea in mind, where they can have lower levies, which benefits them as well and still be protected. And we got an update on the Overton project and the Georgetown project, where they're at on those. Those are really good updates. Received the property acquisition status report. We continue to get closer to where we need to be on acquisitions. Then we had a contracting action with Pfeiffer Auctions. It's dealing with some land issues. And then we had a addition that there was a negotiated settlement with a landowner that was brought before us, and we took action on that. That authorized that to move forward. And then later that day, then we had the Diversion Board of Authority meeting. And kind of we went through some year-end recaps. I did find there was a very good year-end video that Joel Paulson did that basically outlined the year, and I think it would be beneficial if we could show that. I think we can have access to it right through but I think it would be good to show the full board that video. It's not a real long one, and as well as the final drone footage of the year of what's going on. That was also a very good. I think all of you as commissioners would appreciate seeing what's been done this year and how far this thing has moved. So maybe, Steve, if we could request, that might even be something that we could put on for our meeting on the next Tuesday. We do meet next Tuesday, right?
Yes. So far.
Yeah. But that might be something good. It was just really an eye-opener of just how much has been done in this last year. Then on the 18th, I attended along with Commissioner Gross, we were in Halstead for the West Central Regional Water Work Group meeting. We had presentations by the Marshall, well, we received a kind of historical perspective on water projects, rural water projects throughout North Dakota and the history of it and how it expanded and is moving now in Minnesota. And then we received a presentation from Jason Hillman, who is the manager of the Marshall Polk Rural Water. He gave us, kind of as we establish ours, things to watch for and things to do and look out for there. We got a status update on the Minnesota Statute 116A, which is the process that we're using to develop this district. Had some conversation about federal funding and where that's at regarding the city of Felton and Norman County. They're both still within federal budgets, but have not been finalized and approved. And then yesterday, of course, we had yesterday afternoon, we had the meeting. Commissioner Mojo and I had the meeting regarding the discussions regarding the activities for the joint funding request. And part of the reason why Commissioner Mojo was involved with that is because that was more, we look at that as more as an issue related to the MCC JPA and the activities that we have to do in that regard. So it was requested that Commissioner Mojo be part of that discussion. And I was glad that she was there giving the perspective of that rural area. It was helpful. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On the 13th, I virtually attended Northwest Emergency Communication Joint RAC and Board meeting. Pretty much just standard business. Had a protracted discussion on encryption and some of the federal requirements that are coming through with that. And in new business, we passed approval for adding radios and talk groups for Marshall County, White Earth Nation, and Norman County. On the 14th, I attended the Red River Regional Dispatch Center Board of Authority. We had a discussion, a protracted discussion, and a very good one, reviewing the hiring process for the new director position that is going to come open first of the year when Mary Philippi moves on to another line of work. Myself and Chad Peterson are going to be members of the Board of Authority, but we're going to work with the Executive Board to conduct the interviews. The Executive Board will and the Personnel Committee will oversee initial screening of applicants. We'll have a remote interview session with everybody before we come up with a list of final contenders for this, and have in-person interviews. At this point, as of last week, they had 6 applicants who had responded. I don't know anything about them, but it is being advertised in all the partners' websites, and the final day to accept applications will be 2nd of January. And That's all I have for that. Later that day, I attended the Diversion Authority meeting, which Commissioner Campbell covered quite well, and I do agree. The year-end videos, they've really gotten that down to a fine art, and that's probably something that would be beneficial if we can include it. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I had only 2 meetings this week. On Thursday, the monthly board meeting for the Clay SWCD. A lot of discussion about whatever everybody heard at the state convention that was held early, or just a day or 2 before that. Excuse me. In Clay County, it's good to hear this mainly through One Watershed, One Plan. Just even in the last month, something over $160,000 in projects. That's large with individual landowners, or individual landowners. Pretty impressive numbers. A ton of money. I mean, just a lot of money is coming through the Inflation Reduction Act. A lot of money toward climate smart agriculture, which more applies to what are the ways that in the use of farming practices and other agricultural practices in general, forestry, wherever, what are those ways that we can do things in a more efficient and more climate smart way. And a lot of dollars go in that to help that technology advance. And then also when it comes to more on the soil and water piece itself within the state of Minnesota, just never seen this kind of money come into the organization before. And I mean, in the area of these federal grants that then get matched by the state. And I just to point to a few numbers throughout the state, another 25 million, just even working cover crops. And on a local level, probably in the neighborhood of, I'd say roughly it will turn out to be several $100,000 just enhancing the Clay SWC itself in work projects, as well as what we have through the watersheds, through the One Watershed, One Plan. Again, these grants have a lot to do with cover crops and water storage. So that was a good recap and just a lot of things in motion. And I would think to expect, I'm not saying that it'll be with Clay County itself, but I expect these partnerships we're doing with joint counties and our work together may bring in more employees to do the work, because there's, with the amount of things to do, it will be short on workforce. The other meeting I had was yesterday, Clay County Food Partners Steering Committee, getting our last thing set up for our next Food Commission meeting on January 10th. Our main things are to keep working with our blueprints, is what we call them, their activities with different parts of the food distribution or types of opportunities people can do for raising good foods within the community. We're still in the framework of trying to create our next action network plan that would replace First Fridays as we had for so many years. And then, of course, as we will be doing the first week of January, there will be new appointments coming to the Food Commission as well as the Steering Committee. And that's really what I have on that. I have a question. Maybe I'll just bring it up at this point for myself. I'm going to be going on vacation starting on Friday, not coming back until the first of the year out in New Jersey. So can I join us Zoom? Is that for the next meeting on the 26th?
You can join, but I don't think you can make any motions, right?
Correct.
Okay, all right. I will watch if you'll send me a Zoom link. So, thank you.
Hey, Jenny?
Thank you, Commissioner Gross. Last week, I attended the Extension Committee meeting. We had a great update from both of our full-time 4-H coordinators. The new coordinator started, probably 3 weeks ago already, so really excited about the work that they will be able to do. Good updates from Rosie, and we also have a new support staff in the office, so if you have extra time, stop over and introduce yourself to Jennifer. And we talked about the interview schedule for the horticulture position, which we did have interviews for. And then reviews, or staff reviews. I also attended the Clay County Ordinance Update meeting. Really great work being done as we look at the policies and responding to input that they've received. They haven't had a bunch of response from the internet surveys, so thinking critically about how we share that to make sure we reach as many people as possible. And we did have a really long discussion about feedlots and classifications, and the soil and water was there as well. Is there a threshold in which we could handle permits in-house before taking it to the Planning Commission? All really good discussion based on what we've seen in the community and citizen concerns, but also through producers. So great work happening there. I also attended the MCC JPA meeting. We had great presentations on the Clara, Wolverton, and Georgetown projects. As you know, those are very intensively working with the groups in which they affect. So I appreciate hearing about that quarterly, and then did a property acquisition reports and land management reports. Monday, I attended Lakeland Mental Health Center. In regards to availability of appointments, things are looking really good there. November was a tough month financially due to vacations and availability, and it was correlated to some lost revenue there. But also another significant piece to that was that there is a delay in getting visits approved. So those revenues weren't realized. It will right itself once they do get those reports done. But it was the first time, I think, in several years that it was a negative 10% margin, and they usually have quite a healthy margin. It did cut into the yearly margin, but still in the positive. So Donna and staff reassured us that they're working on that daily. And then we've been served so well with Mike McCarthy serving on that board for a substantial amount of time. He served on that board while he was a Clay County Commissioner and has served in that capacity since. Mike has said that he will be vacating that appointment coming in January will be his last meeting. So let's think critically about sharing that opening and filling it with an equally passionate Clay County representative. Mike also will not be serving in the capacity of the Clay County Collaborative. And so there will be an opening for that position as well. Mike has just served in personnel and negotiating. He's really been helpful in that capacity and has such a historical knowledge of Clay County. So thanks to Mike for all of the years of service. And then I also attended the legislative coordinating meeting yesterday with members of the Diversion Authority, the City of Moorhead's mayor and administrator. Hopeful that we can secure broad support for items of mutual need in our community, and dialing in that letterhead in which you saw earlier will be really key to that as we move forward in lobbying for that project. That concludes my report.
I attended last Wednesday, attended the Wildwise Watershed Board. And speaking of vacancies, Mark Harless has indicated to me, verbal indication, that he won't be running again for director, so we'll have to be looking for someone there in that area. They had a short meeting. I only had 4 permits, and they were all approved. The representatives from the White Earth Reservation were there and wanted to receive copies of all permits concerning their reservation, and Staff indicated they're already posted for everybody to see, so just look on the computer, you can got them, so no action was taken on that. Yesterday, attended the watershed meeting up at Holstead that Commissioner Campbell's already talked about some other things we talked about, was the bill paying process. You know, Clay County is the paying county for bills, but who approves them? That discussion wasn't decided how that's process gonna go about. I wanted to know whether we need a lobbying person down on Minneapolis, St. Paul. We decided not to do anything on that yet. And there was some discussion in Pearlie, Minnesota about the water line coming down to Pearlie. Pearlie's gonna do a diking project. They want to know whether to put the pipes in when they do the diking. I think they'll decide that, see how the bids come in on that, I guess, so. Other than that, 2 meetings I had, they did talk about that pipeline, bringing water from, Missouri River over here. There's a 72-inch pipeline being put in and, coming into the Cheyenne. I think it's gonna go into the Cheyenne. It's a pretty big pipeline coming through there. Gonna draw a lot of water in. Go ahead.
Mr. Chair, can I thank you on that? I'd forgot about that piece regarding the Clay County being the fiscal host, and, you know, I kind of raised the question, well, if they're going to send bills to Lori, what does she have for acknowledgement that it's been reviewed? And so I think, Steve, we kind of volunteered your services along with Chuck from Polk, and then the Norman County. Keith Burnt from Norman County. I think they're going to send them to you three together. I'm assuming Lori needs to have some sort of an approval process as to when she can submit, and then there still needs to be worked out how we're going to then get reimbursed by the member counties. So we'll have to have that dialogue. And then lastly, if I can, well, I did neglect, when I was at the Lakes Country Service Co-op meeting, I also served on their budget committee, and we had a meeting beforehand, and we did learn that there is, I don't know if you're familiar with this, but the Inflation Reduction Act that was done, I think, by the state of Minnesota, has some really good credits available for new construction, and it can go back starting the 1st of January of 2023, and we've had a little bit of construction since then, so I don't know if you want to touch base maybe with Joe Olson and check into that and see if there's any credits that we might be entitled to for what we've started between these two projects, and it also could also be beneficial for what we're doing with the DMV. So, thank you.
Okay, Steve?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Last Wednesday, I participated in county management, kind of talked about our end of the year issues, HR, earned, safe, and sick. We went through our risk management policy, talked about strategic planning, moving forward. Later that day, participated in the Land County Development Code that's been covered already. On the 14th, I participated in the MCC JPA meeting, which has also been covered. On the 15th, I did meet on the web with administrators and attorneys for the West Central Water District, along with Daniel Marks and Stephen Slick, just on a few different issues leading up to the meeting that was on Monday. Just a reminder for all of our departments and I guess technically commissioners, the last check run for December is going to be the 27th, which means that Mike needs all of our bills by December 21st at 10 a.m. And just a reminder to our citizens that we are closed this Friday at noon in observation of Christmas, and then we'll reopen on the 26th, that following Tuesday. That concludes my report.
Okay. Derrick, you got anything for us? Okay, we're adjourned.